We're here with the great 84 Herman Moore to talk about the Detroit Lions and Rams. Big game on Sunday. But before we do that, make sure you go to lionsnationunite.com for epic gear. You put in Lions Chat, that is my info, and you can get a special deal off a lot of really, really cool new stuff that they just put out for the playoffs. Herm, tell them all about it really quick.
Oh, I appreciate that. Hey, first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for continuing to subscribe and be a part of our program and being a part of our channel. But listen, always dropping that new hot Lions gear. We are always celebrating the success this team is having this year and getting the fan base motivated. So got new gear out so people can pick that up. If you order it before Wednesday, we are doing expedited shipping at no extra cost. So that way you can get it before the playoff game. But like just this one, I just created. This is my gear. This is stuff that too I create. I actually create this stuff for you. I get into Illustrator. I go into my creative suite and I design these things. But this one is the Lions. You have this playoff gear. We have the Fords hired. Dan Campbell. Lions won. There it is. See that?
Yeah, that's fine.
There it is. And we
That's
got
fire.
our crowns. You know,
That's
got
fire.
that crown put up there as well. So that's what it is, Mike. And, we also have some other cool gear real quick. Hey, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. You know why? Because we ready.
That's right.
There it is.
We're absolutely ready.
We ready. We ready. There it is. So I always like to drop that so that we got some fresh gear here at Lions Nation Unite. So back to you, my man.
And 12% off right now. So go ahead, check it out. It's going to be epic. But we got to talk about Lions are ready. They're facing Matthew Stafford coming back to Detroit. Literally what everybody wanted to see in the media. What is your thoughts initially? Lions hosting a playoff game, first time ever at Ford Field, and being our former quarterback, Matthew Stafford.
Well, first, I didn't realize I'm going, Ford Field's been here. We've had Super Bowls. We've had some really strange things when we had to have the Bills come in and they couldn't play at home because of the weather or whatever happened there. And now we finally get to host a playoff game. And we're doing it with a team that is young, a team that has gone out and defied the odds. Dan Campbell, who came in years ago, and he told us that this was going to happen. And here we are in a short period of time. People didn't have to wait long. Super excited. It means everything to this city. Look, think anyone who's living in Michigan, you could have any conversation around the Lions. I even think if I were to get a parking ticket or a speeding ticket, I'm going to make sure I tell them I was a former Detroit Lion and now I'm a Lion alum. I'm coming here, and that's going to give me some credibility to get out of stuff because that's how hot this team is right now, Mike.
They're really, really hot. Yeah, they're doing really good. The defense is slowly starting to pick up. We would be 13-4 if it wasn't for a referee in Dallas. Before we talk about the Rams game, I want to know your initial thought about that 2-point conversion, saying that Taylor Decker did not report as eligible.
Yeah, at first, there's so much flying around about it. I heard that he didn't report, then he did report, but then they had too many guys going out trying to create confusion for the referee and for the official. And that technically there's only one guy that can report. So really there shouldn't be three guys out there talking to an official. So was that done by design and all this other stuff that's going around? Listen, the Lions are here. Was not happy with it. I hate seeing that there's controversial calls. There's controversy that's around this team always in these big games. But for them to still come out of this, still intact, their character's still there. Yeah, it gave them a chance to really solidify that number two position, that number two seed for the playoffs. But you know what, Mike, man, here we are. I think that we're still in a place where not many of us thought this team would be right now. Not just making the playoffs, but winning the division, but also going from beyond there to have an opportunity to play in postseason, on an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl and win a championship. So regardless of what the officials did or didn't do and how that may have impacted this team, they still fought through it. They still worked through it and did what they were supposed to do, and they lined up.
100%. And now we do got Stafford coming back. When you look at this matchup, what do you see? Because you look at Stafford, I feel like the Lions are good against quarterbacks that stand in the pocket, and they have more issues against mobile quarterbacks. I actually like the matchup, because that's Stafford, right? He's not going to run around. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not going to be a player that's really extending the play with his legs. He may extend it just a little bit, step to the side. But I think the Lions defense, especially with Aiden Hutchinson, he's cooking right now. Romeo Okwara, he's starting to get hot right now. Joshua Pascal. Do you think that the Lions could take advantage of this matchup with Matthew Stafford coming back?
Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I know I talked to Chrissy, and she was making sure I bring a little bit of this type of dialogue to our conversation. Some may see Matthew Stafford as being a guy that's a pocket passer, and that he's someone, if you come off of the edge and you contain him and keep him from getting outside the pocket, he has to step up into pressure. That means you got to get the pressure up front. Can the Lions get pressure up front? We'll see what happens there. The concern I have is that Matthew Stafford is a little different in that he is a veteran quarterback. He is going to take a look and have input on the plays that are called. He's going to use the aggressiveness. He's going to use, whether it's, you talk about the pressure that Aiden Hutchinson has. He's going to find weaknesses in the secondary. They're going to change their play call. I don't care what you have seen the Rams do so far this year against other opponents. They're going to have a very specific game plan that takes advantage of the weaknesses that they've identified beyond early. So they're not going to catch him off guard. Yeah, will they throw some other things in the mix? The Lions try and bring some pressure and blitz and all those things. Matthew Stafford's going to work with that under pressure. Veteran quarterbacks will see that. So I don't think there's a disadvantage on Matthew's end on the Rams. But I think where the Lions should be a little bit concerned is the fact that there's going to be a game plan to expose weaknesses that the Lions know they can't fix with play calling. You can only fix with personnel. So that's where I hope they don't get into matchup issues because now you're predicated on having to get to the quarterback. You don't get to the quarterback, then he's going to make you pay. If you don't get to Matthew, I know he's going to run the football. He's not afraid to scramble and get outside the pocket or to take off running. So you run into just some real issues, I think, that people just don't want to overlook when it comes to this being a good matchup, so to speak, for the Lions and having Matthew back in the pocket.
They keep saying it's a Matthew Stafford revenge game, and I think that's incorrect. Matthew Stafford requested to be traded. He wanted to go to LA to a good team. But then you have a guy named Jared Goff. I think it's Jared Goff revenge game. He gets traded from a great team, comes to Detroit. The media destroyed this guy, saying he's a window licker and he eats crayons after the trade took place, that he is a throwaway. He comes back. He's number 2 in yards in the NFL right now. He's top 5 in pretty much every statistical category from QBR to touchdowns to yards. What does Jared Goff got to do in this game? And do you think he's got extra motivation to defeat his old team?
Again, I'm going to go back to breaking this down a little bit deeper. Yeah, there's going to be the controversy or the revenge piece, the aspect that's going to be there for Jared Goff. But I also think there's going to be a part here where he's going to have to prove that can he go through now these games and play against these teams where pressure is going to be there all the time. We've seen his statistics. We've seen his record, his QBR. When you look at him when he's under a lot of duress and he's under pressure. Now, how does he handle that as a quarterback, and how does that pressure handle work with this team in terms of how they get their plays called? I think the running game is giving him balance, is giving him something that perhaps he hasn't had and he could depend on in the event that they can't throw the football until they soften it up so they can go to play action. Jared Goff is a different quarterback than when he came here to Detroit. He has now moved on to becoming that leader. We talked about this, Mike, a few years ago when we first started talking about Jared Goff. How quickly you can transition him over into being the person that the team depends on and expects to say, you know what, if he's not in, our chances go down considerably in winning. That's what you have in Jared Goff now, to where he gives them the best chance under center or in the shotgun position. So is it a revenge game? There are going to be some emotional pieces, yes, but the professional part of he and Stafford, they're going to set that aside and know that they have a job to do and a responsibility for their team in order to get them over this hump.
When you look at the Rams, what can the Lions do offensively to continue to put up points and just keep racking them up? What can the Lions do to take advantage?
For the Lions to be able to put up points, they're going to have to be able to have good ball control. They're going to have to be smart in terms of their play mix. I think the running game has been the key. If the Lions come out and it seems as though they have a game plan to really stick with the run, to really soften up the defense with the run, because they can. They have two guys they can bring in to make it work. And then they get their smaller passes out of the way. The defense then shifts into something else. And then the Lions seem to be to come up with bigger plays, get the matchup issues and problems they won in the secondary against their receivers who are crafty. And then when they get down there, I think not leaving any points on the board. I know Dan Campbell has really been really aggressive, and sometimes there's opportunity for just the 3 points, but he may pass on that and take the fourth down initiative. The playoffs are a little bit different. I mean, these points are going to count for the most part. But I'm never going to tell a coach to change the way in which they do it. That's not my place, and I don't want to speak outside of my place. But I just think this is going to be where all the points you can get matter, and scoring more touchdowns obviously matter. This has been a pretty decent red zone team in the Lions, and the way they've worked their way in. And then once they get inside the 10, they've become pretty much unstoppable.
Big game then on Sunday. Who do you got winning? What do you see happening Sunday night football, Lions and Rams?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the first time since 1991 that the Lions will win a home game in the playoffs, because I really believe that they can force some things to happen. So I'm going to dial it back. I don't really like to ever predict who can win. I say this: the best team is going to win, and that means not necessarily always the most talented, the most physically gifted, or the smartest on their coordinators and coaching staff. It's teams that will go out and play mistake-free football. We hear that all the time. When the margin of error and the difference between the two teams in terms of talent gets smaller and smaller, it's the intangibles. It's who's going to not turn the football over, who's going to understand that when it's time to punt and play defense, which team is going to be able to not give up the big plays or have lapses in defensive coverage and let guys just run right by them on their way to a long, deep pass for a touchdown. Those are the teams that win in this critical time. And then if you get down and you have adversity, who changes faster? Who switches over quicker and all of a sudden makes those adjustments where they're getting beat, where they're losing, in the trenches, or they're losing in the secondary? Those are the teams, when it's all clicking together, it's going to win. So I say this: I think the Lions, if they execute, if they go out and they hit all their marks like I'm talking about, the Lions should win this game at home. However, if the Lions get off to a slow start, or they find themselves behind and they're giving up big plays, I think they're going to be in trouble, and this could be an early exit for them from the playoffs.
Hopefully it's not an early exit, it's just the beginning to the Super Bowl. I think that's what we would all love here in Detroit. It's been a great season anyways, regardless. Herm, why should people go to lionsnationunite.com and get the epic gear?
I love, and not first and foremost, inviting people to Lions Nation Unite, not just to come and get the great gear that I know that myself personally creates, like that, but it's because we have people like you, Mike, that bring it every single time. You come in with the in-depth information. I'm bringing you my perspective as a former player, but also someone who is very passionate about this game. That's why you come to the channel. You don't have to guess what the professionals are thinking. You don't have to guess what the passionate fans and or those that are commenting on this think. You can get it directly from yourself, Mike, or you can get it directly from me. So that's why you come to Lions Nation Unite, to get not only fresh and sweet gear, but you come and get the real.
Well, hopefully we're talking next week, and we're talking about the Lions advancing to the Dallas Cowboys. With that said, folks, adios.